Welcome back to the Animal Highlight, everyone. This is season 4, where we're focused on animals and waste. My co-host this season is Herre de Bondt, who has done research on rats in Amsterdam, crows in Tokyo, and gulls in The Hague. His work has now brought him to London, where his PhD project is concerned with urban bird feeding practices. He's particularly interested in the ways in which non-human animals inform and shape the contemporary city in collaboration with and in defiance of humans. In this episode, we talk about house finches. Hi, Hero. Welcome back to the Animal Highlight, where we're focusing on animals and waste. So now we're already on the third Animal Highlight. Can you believe it?
Yeah, it's going so quick.
Yeah, that's very... You get into like a rhythm and a roll. No, a roll. Is that how you say it? Anyway, of looking at different animals. But I'm looking forward to what we're looking at today, or who we're looking at today. What's going to be in focus?
Yeah, well, Claudia, before we get there, I'm going to ask you, have you by chance seen the film or documentary All That Breathes?
No, I haven't watched it. I have seen the preview and it looks quite emotional, and I'm so far behind. I think I've got like a list of 10 animal related movies that I need to watch that are on my list, and my list is just getting bigger and bigger. And then in the evenings, I watch crappy shows instead of actually doing the things that I want to watch. So the short answer to your question is no, I haven't. What's it about?
It is. It is a very good film. I think it won a bunch of prizes, and it depicts two brothers living in New Delhi who dedicate every waking hour to rescuing and nurturing the black kites back to health. It's so interesting because their goal is severely impacted by the political landscape in the city, by air pollution that poisons the sky, and the birds, of course, as well, and by their financial situation. So I definitely recommend watching it because it's just a very beautiful illustration of how multi-species relations allow us to see the city as a complex ecology that's just full of very resilient life.
Oh, I like that so much because, I think some of the best research related to animal studies is actually coming out of India. And I know when it comes to urban studies, Indian scholarship is at the forefront of thinking about urban animals and animal relations. So this movie sounds right up my alley. It sounds really good.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Have you by chance read the book Lively Cities by Man Barua?
I haven't read his book. I've read a whole bunch of his papers. Mambara, like his way of thinking and putting things together is just awesome. I haven't read Lively. I've read Killer Cities, which maybe shows my difference in orientation. I've read Killer Cities, but not Lively Cities yet. So
okay,
I'll put it on my list of must reads.
it is one of those examples of work coming out of India about cities. But what I wanted to focus on today was something that stood out very much to me in this film, is that one of these rescuers mentioned that black kites in New Delhi have recently started rubbing cigarette butts in their nests as a way of coating their nest against parasites.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, exactly. So, of course, eager to find out more, I jumped on my computer, rammed into the search term black kite, cigarette butts, New Delhi, and all kinds of variations of that. But no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't find anything published about black kites engaging in such behavior.
Oh, interesting.
It is very interesting why I couldn't find it. But my good friend Google took me all the way to the other side of the world, to Mexico City, where researchers have found that a far smaller bird, the house finch, is actually collecting cigarette butts and lining their nests with it. So that's what I want to focus on today: house finches and their use of cigarette butts.
Oh, how interesting. I know house finches and I know cigarette butts. So
Yeah, exactly. Well, we're going to put them together today. They are very small birds, no longer than, let's say, a tube of toothpaste. And they originally came from Mexico, but now live across most of, or all of North America, I believe. And like many finches, they have a short beak, black bead-like eyes, and a beautiful song made up of very short notes. Both male and female birds are light brown with some darker stripes on their bellies and on their sides. But male house finches, they almost look like they've been sprayed in the face by a graffiti artist. They have this red mist-like color that covers their heads and their bellies. And this makeup is a result of the berries and fruits that they eat. And female house finches are far more attracted to a deeper red coloration in males than in any other color that they might have.
Wait, so I just want to make clear. So do they have, like, their feathers are red on their face and looks like spray paint, or they're red on their face from the berries they eat?
Oh yeah, good question. No, it is actually their feathers, I think. It is. I think I haven't read how this works, but I'm assuming they eat something and the red coloration somehow
Manifests in their feathers. Okay, so it's not
yeah.
that they're walking around with like fruity goop on their face that looks like spray paint. It's not like I ate a pomegranate and it's all just squirted over my face. It's that they've eaten red berries and it's changed the color of their feathers.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think
I
this is about
see.
their messy eating habits, no.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, we all know what happens when a female bird takes a liking to a male bird, of course. So I'd like to fast forward to what happens when these birds are ready to start building a nest. Researchers have found that certain birds, like starlings, for example, collect aromatic plants like yarrow, and they weave them into the lining of their nest to fend off ectoparasites. With ectoparasites, I mean parasites from the outside, like ticks, fleas, but especially to birds, the nest mite.
Mm-hmm.
And these ectoparasites not only suck blood, but they also are able of spreading endoparasites, which go inside of the body, which can be even more harmful as they just wreak havoc inside of their bodies of the nestlings in the nest. And the ornithological world is debating, why exactly are birds weaving these plants into their nest? Are they actually doing this to deter ectoparasites, or does it have any other reason? But whatever the reason may be, house finches in Mexico City seem to have swapped this herbal treatment for a more questionable habit of lining their nests with cigarette butts, or the fibers of cigarette butts as well, as they rip them apart. And whenever I think of urban waste, I don't know about you, but cigarette butts immediately come to mind.
Mm.
This post bit of the final bit of cigarettes has just become so ubiquitous that I personally barely even notice them anymore when they're lying around on the
Oh my
floor.
God, I notice them all the time. I hate it so much.
Right?
I think cigarette butts, maybe it's because I'm I'm a non-smoker, but like, I don't know, there's not a lot of waste lying around Vienna, but cigarette butts are everywhere and I
Yeah.
hate it so
It's
much. It's like people just think that it's because it's the small thing that it's not waste, but they're everywhere and they're disgusting.
it's
They
so
really
ugly
are
as
gross.
well. Yeah.
Mm.
Um, house finches, just like you, maybe you're part house finch. I don't know. They do recognize them because they are very aware of these cigarette butts as they capitalize on this human litter. Montserrat Suarez Rodriguez and their colleague Constantino Macias Garcia, they're researchers at the National Autonomous University of Mexico, conducted a series of studies in which they investigated exactly how house finches interact with cigarettes. The team found that smoked cigarette butts did indeed lower the amount of ectoparasites present in the nest. But they also added a little note. They said maybe these birds are just using cigarette butts as insulation because they are fibers in the end. They would make the nest warmer.
Mm.
So these researchers, they clearly did not want to let the matter rest. And Suarez and Garcia therefore carried out another study 5 years later in 2017, in which they added both live and dead ticks to the house finch nests to see how these birds would react. And they were completely right. The presence of ticks did indeed spur female finches to weave more smoked cigarette butt fibers into their nest.
Oh, wow.
But, of course, there is a reason why we tell children don't smoke. Cigarette butts, or cigarettes rather, are addictive and detrimental to the human body, as smoking, of course, remains one of the leading causes of lung cancer. And while we don't see house finches going around smoking these cigarettes, surely interacting with them can't be good for small passerine birds either, or for their babies for that matter. And so in 2017, the same team of researchers did another study, and they discovered that the cigarette butts were indeed affecting the nucleus of the blood cells of birds who spent a lot of time in these nests. The long-term effect of this remains unclear, but it does mean that the female finches are disproportionately exposed to this risk, as they just spend far more time in the nest than males do, which I think it also just made me think about how geographies of waste can have impacts that cut across both species lines, but also gender lines.
Mm.
And this whole story just made me think about how our waste carries over beyond the human world. When we speak of recycling, reusing, upcycling, we talk about it in terms of how waste can retain or regain value to human societies. But discarded and used cigarette butts have little value to humans, but house finches show us that this waste can still be useful. But like I said, it remains to be seen if this resource is harming them.
Mm.
And it also made me think about the more than human consequences of shifting human habits. Because Mexico's population, at one point, of course, when cigarettes became widely available, started smoking more and more, and house finches collectively started using these cigarette butts in their nests. But now, as of 2023, Mexico has announced a specific smoking ban in many public spaces, specifically, that is so strict that the BBC has even called it one of the world's strictest anti-tobacco laws.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and needless to say, this will, of course, significantly impact the availability of cigarette butts for house finches. And that just made me think, how will this change their habits? And what other materials might they start using as nest building material? Who knows? But one thing that I am sure of is that we are bound to be surprised by their resourcefulness once again, whenever they find something new.
Wow, I love this. I love the story so much for so many reasons. Yeah, I really appreciate how you've brought in there that how, I guess, human policies or human urban policies change, how it really impacts and can have big impacts and small impacts for animals, right? In terms of the resources that are available to them.
Yeah.
And the extent to which that's taken into consideration or not is, of course, a huge question. But also this idea of whether it's healthy or not for the finches, because, you kind of put next to one another there how detrimental smoking is for human health because it's something we inhale when we smoke. But the filters, right? Like, it's just filters. There's no tobacco in the filter, right?
No, I don't think so. But the smoke has passed through there. So there must be
Oh.
some remains of it in there. And it's affecting the nucleus of their cell, which sounds very severe. I think it's called genotoxic damage.
Okay.
But I have no clue. And the researchers also don't know how much it's actually going to do.
Okay, so it's definitely having a kind of like biological impact on them, but it's unclear yet whether how bad that is for them, how much it's impacting their reproduction, their behavior, etc. But obviously they've got a need for this. The plant that you mentioned at the beginning is something, I don't know if you'd know this, but is something happening to that plant? Is it less available to house finches now for whatever reason that they're now turning to cigarette butts?
So interestingly enough, tobacco plant itself, which is also very aromatic and apparently can be used for the same purpose, does grow in Mexico City or around Mexico City. And so the house finches do have it available, but they choose cigarette butts instead. All of the house finches, or not sure if all, but the researchers found that cigarette butts are far more used than tobacco plants.
Oh, I wonder if this has probably got to do with the texture of a filter, right? It's a lot softer. Wow, you see, this raises so many questions, and this is exactly why I like animal highlights. You focus on a specific animal and their behavior, and all of a sudden, numerous kind of policy questions, health questions, spatial questions come to the fore. This is really, really wonderful. Thank you so much for all of this, Herre.
Yeah, you're welcome.
The Animal Highlight is produced by myself, Claudia Hirtenfelder, co-hosted together with Herre de Bondt. The editing was done by Herre de Bondt, Christiaan Mentz, and myself. The episode artwork by Rebecca Shen, and the bed music by Gordon Clarke. This is The Animal Highlight with me, Claudia Hirtenfelder.